Okay. Yeah.
Right. All the action's right here.
Yeah.
The action's
Right.
Start out.
You want to start it out?
Hello, Internet. I'm Dan.
I'm Chaz, and this is Wine is Serious Business, episode 124. We're here with John Grochau again. We tasted through his 2008s last time. Been talking with him, came here and bottled with him once, and carrying a conversation. And so we got to, we're here to try his 09s this time. So,
Yes. Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about what was exciting for you about 2009, or what you think these wines share?
Well, yeah. From 08 to 09, the nice thing was we didn't have to wait till the end of October to pick grapes. It was a very warm year. It was on time and even perhaps a little ahead of schedule at some points. So it wasn't quite the nail lighter vintage. It's quite different. 08 was such a highly structured vintage. 09 is the antithesis. These are wines that are more ready to roll in a sense. They can definitely take some time in the bottle, but they are just voluptuous at release. So
Awesome.
I like voluptuous. So, I tend to like some of the bigger wines. So yeah, I'm excited to try these.
So yeah, let's start with the 09 Willamette Valley. This is a blend of all 7 vineyards I work with, so it's all over the Willamette Valley. We have in the Eola-Amity Hills, we have Bjornson Vineyard, as well as Zenith Vineyard. We have in the Dundee Hills, Anderson Family Vineyard, touch of Anna Vineyard fruit in there as well. On the Yamhill Carlton, we have Monksgate Vineyard, and then we have Cherry Grove Vineyard in there. And missing one. This is embarrassing. We'll just leave it there. Anyway,
That's a lot of it.
but it's a Willamette Valley blend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we bring the grapes here, sort them, cold soak them for 5+ days. It really depends. When the ferment wants to start, we'll give it a little heat to get going, but let things go naturally, spontaneously, depending on who you ask. The ferment start, but about 2 weeks in the fermenter, 2 to 3 weeks. Aged in barrel, 1.5 years. And this only saw about 20% new wood. The remainder was about 30% once filled and 50% neutral barrels. So I like to keep oak as a subtle spice, not a huge flavor profile in my finished ones.
And are these brought together right before bottling, or is there some barrel aging as a blend?
No, it's actually all right before bottling.
Right.
I'll play with blending in samples from the barrels for a long time, and then but
Cool.
really only about a week or 2 before
Right.
bottling.
Yeah, there's not much oak detectable at all on this. Definitely a lot of really bright fruit. It's a lot of spicy notes to it, which I like.
Yeah. Cinnamon's coming in there for sure. And there's a sense of richness, I think, like from really ripe strawberries. It's not like really getting into super dark fruit, but it's just, fully ripe strawberries. Kind of have a soft feel to the nose even.
Enjoyable to smell.
Yeah, and sometimes the oak can offer those sweet spices, but it's not in that pronounced oaky way in that sense. Generally speaking, I like a little more tannin in my wine in the sense. I came from restaurant work, and so I always think of wine for food, and a little tannin just softens a touch with some protein, butter, cheese, meat, what have you. And so that's what I'm always going for with wine, is something that's just there for the meal, that's going to get through the fat.
I really like how this starts out on the palate. Kind of delicate right away, and then the sense of richness settles in, but it's not heavy at all. It's a light richness, which I really like. I'm going to go back to like the really ripe strawberries, a little bit of cherry fruit going on there too. To me, not super dark, like not really getting into the plums, but just some nice soft fruit, and then a little bit of tartness, kind of like raspberries towards the back end. So some good complexity.
Absolutely, and the approach and feel of this wine is very nice. Like, it starts off with nice fruit, but the way the structure sort of comes in on the finish is very linear and very balanced. Delicious. With the fruit left once is sort of like there's like a chalkiness that sort of takes up the sides of my cheeks, but there's still a lot of fruit still left on the tongue afterwards. It's nice. So
That's what when we were talking earlier, $24, right?
Yeah, $24 retail. You know, it depends on the stores. Some people have lighter markups, some people heavier. But
Of course, which I think is just killing it, right? We were talking about the commuter cuvee earlier. We did that on another show. Loved it. That's sold out now. I think I haven't seen that on shelves for a while. But this isn't a whole lot more money, and it's actually got, you know, some more complexity, and it's still really delicious. So, you know, check it out, right? It's a good way to introduce yourself to Oregon Pinot, or to let yourself drink it, you know, without really breaking the bank. It's a nice price point.
Absolutely. Like a blend of some pretty serious vineyards too. So
Right.
some good complexity, some nice wine. So yeah, really enjoyable.
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited, more and more excited. It's been in the bottle now for, what, 7 months, so it's really come around.
Yeah, really well integrated in the structure and the fruit. It's good stuff.
Cool. Next we are going to Dundee Hills. So I buy from 2 sites in the Dundee Hills, or did in 09, and Anderson family. This is mostly from Anderson Family Vineyard, 70%, and 30% from Anna Vineyard, which is a very old vine vineyard, also in the Dundee Hills area. But like Willamette Valley is aged 1.5 years in barrel. This saw no new wood, but it did see about 40% once filled barrels. So there's wood impact, but it's none of the new barrels, which can be a little, will have a heavy impact.
How long do you keep your barrels?
I have some 10-year-old barrels.
Okay.
I have some barrels from the first barrels I ever bought are in there.
Nice.
Big lucky barrels.
Yeah.
I do actually. I do have some barrels, but there also depends on. I try to choose, at least for the first 3 fills, when the wood, the Cooper style is coming out, choose barrels that fit vineyards, and so I have certain barrels that I really like to go here, and there is one barrel that I really like that I've been using a lot. I don't know why. It's probably BS, like a favorite sweater or what have you.
That's awesome.
But
But good things happen when you use it or you wear it, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
A little bit of magic in the wine. There's nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that.
So this, to me, this shows that really ripe and more hedonistic style of 2009 vintage Oregon Pinot Noir.
Dan and I talk a lot about how we like Dundee Hills fruit. Like, definitely one of our favorite AVAs. So, but man, right off the bat, this is showing like more darker, richer character. Like the nose is definitely more, almost to the plummy side. We're talking. You said, you mentioned that earlier, like getting a little bit of that old blackberries.
Getting some like violets on there too, a little floral thing.
Which I think is so typical of Dundee. I think Dundee to me is about, flowers and underbrush. It's and usually redder fruits, but into the dark spectrum too. But it's not. It's never the wine. To me, the wine that's huge hedonistic. Well, it's a 9, but it's a little more so. But they have it's more sexy and pretty.
Yeah.
So like a Frenchman.
Speaking of sexy, this is sexy and pretty on the palate, man. But it's definitely got a low cut dressing going on. Like this is really rich and voluptuous on the palate. Very nice feel, like almost velvety blankets the tongue and just really nice dark fruit flavor. And with richness going on the whole time, right? Like it's almost like caramelly or something like that.
Yeah. There is a touch of that going on.
Yeah. There's a bit of that.
I think that, like, I would go more with silk than velvet, but either way, right, that soft mouthfeel lasts for quite a while, even out on the finish, even after you swallow the wine, like it's sticking around. I really like that. I'm getting a little punch of acidity late, a little evolution on the fruit, which I like, and I agree that this is a little darker than I'd even expect, right when it starts out, kind of like blackberries sitting in the sides.
Especially for Dundee Hills fruit, which I typically attribute, for me, like when I think about Dundee Hills fruit, it's like there's always this like sweet red fruit thing. It's like typically you get red fruit, it's like a dry red fruit, like Pinots across the Willamette Valley. Like there's always this like sweet edge to the dry wines in Dundee Hills, and that I really like. But this is like totally dark and rich.
Yeah, and
not atypical of what I would classify Dundee Hills wine is.
that is the Anderson Family Vineyard. It is Dundee on its steroids. I don't understand why exactly. It's a very steep hillside. It's a knob, and you'd be surprised to hear that the grapes that I buy are actually on a north-east slope, ever so slightly. So they're the latest ripening in the vineyard. They don't get tons of the direct sunlight, and I've never purchased anything from the south slope, and maybe I will in the future. But you get this dark intensity out of that site that is not typical of Dundee, I feel. I mean, it's not like the DDO wines, which tend to be so just pretty and more of that herby and earthy and red, very red core. With Anderson family, you always get more intensity, more tannin, more dark profile.
I really like the feel of the acidity on this here too. Like it's got a real elegance to it, and it lasts for a long time, as well as that silky texture on the finish, which, you know, I'm fond of that. And pretty much any wine I experience that in. So more nice qualities, again, good complexity of flavors.
The texture on the finish of this wine is awesome. The tannins have a definite sweet feel to them, right? It's like almost leaving that through the finish, and a lot of fruit still left. And if you like a bigger style Pinot, which sometimes I do, like I've got the whole spectrum of Oregon Pinot in my collection. Sometimes I want the big, rich, more voluptuous wine. Sometimes I want the like 12.5 or 12.9 high acid, low fruit wine. This is definitely on the more voluptuous side of things and is really well done in that. So if that's what you're going for, this is killer.
You said this was
$29?
$29.
Yeah, $29. And keeping in the AVA vein, we have the Eola-Amity, also 2009 vintage. So this is a blend of two vineyards in the Eola-Amity Hills AVA. Bjornson Vineyard, 60% from that vineyard, and 40% from Zenith Vineyard, also in the Eola-Amity Hills. These two vineyards are 5 miles apart by crow's flight, but couldn't be more different. Bjornson Vineyard sits quite a bit higher, a lot more rocks in the soil, a lot more struggle in the vine. And Zenith Vineyard, a little heavier soils, less struggle in the vine, probably less wind as well, so they get thinner skin, not as much tannin as you generally get out of Bjornson Vineyard. Yeah. So like the Dundee Hills and the Willamette Valley, aged 1.5 years in barrel. This one did see 25% new French wood. And probably 20% new French wood, 20% once filled, and the remainder neutral.
I'm going to highlight this too for you guys that watch, if you're curious or you want to nerd out a little bit. Like, it's a cool opportunity to get AVA specific bottlings from the same producer in the same vintage, right? If you want to do a comparison or you want to, educate yourself a little bit about, differences in Oregon growing regions, good opportunity to do that for not too much money, and yeah, definite differences in these wines.
That'd be interesting horizontal to do like an Eola-Amity bottling for like a single vintage.
Yeah.
Do it horizontal. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's, I think I'll be adding,
Bunch of producers.
actually, Chehalim Mountain AVA for 2010.
Nice.
Awesome.
We just barrel tasted some fruit within that. It's delicious stuff, so I look forward to that. Look forward to that next year.
Yeah, a lot of promise in the 2010s and 2011s.
2011's the vintage, it's just so surprising, It's like, it was a scary vintage, it just worked out so well, who knew? It's crazy.
The color difference between the 2010s and 2011s, like even darker, and fruit's really bright.
Yeah, and for fruit that came in with less sugar, it's darker. It's, the color that comes out, the color profile or the flavor profile, it's just all darker, which is just so surprising. It's one of those, just telling of time on vine for ripeness of fruit versus actual heat is more important. You need time more than heat, and I think 2011 shows that more than any vintage.
Can't wait to taste the bottle. It's going to be really interesting, especially the contrast between 2010 and 2011. See what the differences are.
Come summer, late summer, you taste the commuter.
And we will.
Got some citrus notes going on in the nose here, I think. Kind of like a couple different things, like little grapefruits, little lemons.
Yeah, hopefully that is coming out.
kind of mixed in there with some blackberry fruit. And a touch of like minerality, and for this time, it's like Rocky Stream to me.
There's a touch of, so talk about, we tasted all these just to make sure they weren't like corked or whatever initially, like still getting just a hint of this, like almost like it's like parsley or some sort of green leafy thing. It's not like green like it's stems, but it's like green like it's a fresh, not herb, but fresh something else.
And it's
I like it. It's a really like a refreshing, cool note to see alongside the fruit.
It's reminding me of pine needles.
Yeah, and that's Bjornson Vineyard, and that is, especially in 2009, first year I worked with the fruit. Even in fermentation, it smelled a little bit like a Christmas tree. which, if you're making wine and you've never smelled that smell, it's a little disconcerting at first, and you're wondering what the heck's going on, what do I gotta do? But you let it go, and in barrel, it muted. I mean, it was never on the forefront, but I liked it. I think it's a nice subtle note. That said, I also do like doing whole cluster fermentation, so it makes sense. Because I like, especially in hot vintages, where it can add a little bit of savory to something that's so abundantly sweet. And I did neglect to tell you that there was, in these wines, not so much this one, there was a fair amount of whole cluster fermentation in 2009.
Sure.
So that plays into it. But yeah, I definitely, I mean, I see both. I always thought of piney or fir, but I like where Chaz is going with that parsley, even, or, you know, muted cilantro, not that impactful cilantro that, yeah.
When I was young, my mom had a full garden, right? And so one of the things, I don't know, totally, probably the reason I like vegetables, but like I just go eat vegetables all the time, like just raw. We had parsley plants like, all alongside of it.
Nice.
And I would just sit there, grab like a handful of parsley, and just munch on the stalks.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. I hated that stuff when I was young. That's amazing.
Well, probably Italian parsley, not that nasty curly
probably
stuff
true.
you
No,
get
no,
Denny's on your eggs.
But this was like almost the same sort of fresh zestiness you get like out of fresh celery or something, you know? Like,
Oh, cool.
celery sort of flavor, but more strong. Obviously, because it's small stalks, you're getting a lot more fiber there and flavor. But yeah, and that's sort of like a little bit of that flavor I'm getting here, and that's just probably my brain dialed into that aroma.
Yeah. The parsley has lift. I mean, both my wife and I like to cook, and you know, adding a little bit of parsley to something can really add some nice lift to something, you know, a dish, even though it's such a small amount and it's a little green and also looks nice.
You're talking about adding this to like a richer...
Yeah, a richer dish, a heavy sauce,
right.
or yeah, like a stew even. You know, adding lift to something rich, yeah.
Right. And this is, because like there is a lot of richness going on here as well, but not the same sort of richness we were getting in the Dundee Hills. Like the flavors are a little more, a little brighter, and the structure is a little more here as well. Like the tannins are a little more in the forefront, the acidity is a little more in the forefront. Yes.
There's some great evolution going on here that I really like. Settles in with like lighter fruits, a little kind of like cherries and raspberries again. As the tannin set in, I'm getting just this great pop of acidity. Kind of on the back end, it's still drying my mouth out really nice. And minerality's settling in right on the mid palate too. Just good complexity, and it keeps things interesting. Like I find myself thinking about it as it evolves across my palate. And, you know, that's exciting, right? Got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I really think you put it well there, where this is kind of the evolving thinking man's wine. This is just like, I want a glass of wine and I want to enjoy it. A little more hedonistic, a little more easy, user-friendly. It's not, it's there for you.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, this is going to go a long time. It's going to age well. It also just, I mean, it's evolved so much since I opened it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like these like lighter, fresher plums kind of lingering on the finish. Man, just a lot of cool stuff going on there.
There is more complexity in the Eola-Amity bottle. Definitely more, like Dan was talking about the evolution, there is evolution going on here between structure and fruit and the flavors. And yes, more of the thinking's man, if you want a little more of an intellectual experience, if you want a little more foreplay, you go for the Eola-Amity, whereas the Dundee Hills is like, the clothes just come off, right?
All right.
So,
Okay. That's where we are.
but no, I mean, the Dundee Hills is a richer, more voluptuous
What's
style.
that a segue to?
Depends on the woman you're with.
More wives are gonna love watching this.
So, loving both of those wines.
Yeah.
The Eola-Amity, it's definitely stylistically a different wine. So, interesting to try both of them side by side, and I like both of them quite a bit. So, yeah.
Unbeknownst to Chaz and Dan, I brought a little blind pour for them. So this is a wine I made, and it is my Cuvee Des Amis from a vintage, and see if they can figure it out. Let's see if they can figure it out.
So good. There's 2 episodes in a row now where we get to guess stuff blind. We didn't do so well in the last one. Let's see if
No, and just to make it easy, I started making wine in 2002.
Okay.
So it's got to be somewhere between 2002 and now. But
All right.
of course, yeah. Anyway,
A little bit of that forest floor going on there, kind of leaning into the Oregon funk that we talk about from time to time.
Yeah.
Like little,
The dirt.
logs on the forest floor, dried out pine needles,
Moss.
what a whole cluster.
blackberries in there. That makes sense. Yeah, all kinds of forest floor. Yeah, it's nice.
God. Still so bad at blind tasting Oregon.
Wow. Really even structure across the palate, really clean. It's kind of like I was going to say like a laser, but I'm like, no, it doesn't have like that sharp edge or that like, laser's got kind of a feel of a spike to it. I guess it's more like a bright flashlight, a little bit less than that. It's focused.
It's a
mag.
Oh, shoot. The acidity for me is a little strong though.
Yeah.
There is an edge for me to the acidity.
All right.
Like I'm definitely, and I am someone that's more prone. I'm not an acid freak as some people are. The strong acidity to me comes off really strong, and when it's really strong, it definitely has an edge. And this has a little bit of that. There is nice, rich red flavors going on here. Man, the acidity cuts through just like
There's a lot of
very like a katana,
Like a
ninja sword.
The acidity's bringing in some apple flavors, I think, later on. I think I would, strawberry fruits will kind of dance around in there too. It gives it that bright, dry feeling. Yeah, I dig it. It's clean. And one thing I really find interesting is that, while it's got that forest floor stuff going on in the nose, I'm not getting so much of that on the palate. It's not like a real heavy, earthy experience across the palate. It's lighter and brighter and ready. I mean, the maturity's there. You can tell on the tannins, like they're present, but a little softer.
There were plenty of times when this is young.
Guys, I should say that'd be another game. You dipped in wax.
Man,
in 2010 or something.
Yeah.
But,
It's
a previous edition.
What do you think, Dan?
So I'm going to go with 2005, and my thoughts on that being there have been plenty of acidity in 2005s that I've liked. That forest floor flavor I've noticed coming out, because now that's after a wine that we've started collecting. Right, 2002, when you started, was right about when I started collecting, but I don't have much, and a lot of the stuff I had I stored poorly, so I don't have as much of an understanding of that. The acidity is kind of pulling me towards 2007, but I'm going to say no, and 2005 is my guess. So.
Mine would be 2005 is my honorable mention, but I'm thinking 2003, only based on the richness. And I've had some 03s recently that had acidity like this. Like, it's been a while. Like, it's been a year since I've had 03s like this, but and this is we're tasting this in sort of a cold environment. And I think that
And
in
it
a
came
warmer
straight out of
environment,
my basement, so.
it reminds like I want to say I feel alcohol in this, but I don't. I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I can tell that it's there, but it's not like the Bernie, like.
03 is my guess, but 05 would be my second guess, my close second.
And since that's a possibility, I'm going to say blind too. If this is a 2003, it's exceptional. It's amongst the best that I've had. So.
Yeah.
If only it was a 2003.
Okay.
Both wrong.
I don't like that vineyard.
Yeah, it's 04.
Both wrong. Wow. Which?
It's
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, 04 Cuvee Des Amis. The reason why 04 was a hot year, but a hot finish to a year. But this is mostly from the American Viticultural Areas, which is notorious for acid retention, really low pHs,
Cool.
and dark fruit, generally speaking. That said, it's balanced out with some warmer sites in Eola-Amity. I believe there's Cuvee Des Amis and Monksgate, if my memory serves me well, in that vineyard or in that blend. So the acidity is huge, but the American Viticultural Areas is Momtazi Meredith Mitchell vineyard and that is probably, if I remember correctly, I just yanked this out of my cellar, so I didn't really look at information, but I'd say 50 to 60% from that AVA. Fair amount of whole cluster, adding that kind of in the vintage because it was such a warm finish, and the alcohol's high. It was a good. I think
It feels just a little bit of warmth on it. Like some people were able to pull off some lower alcohols in 03, and like some of them held together, but sometimes not, right?
I didn't. It was my second year, and boy, shoot, I think I was 14.7. I was not ideal. But this is a 14.4, but it is. It was actually, when it was younger, the voluptuous fruit was perhaps balancing the acid more in your favor at that point. And as it's aged, that voluptuousness, that youthful fruit has muted down a little bit. And honestly, I really like where it's drinking. I'm really happy with where it is. I like that acid balance. It's perhaps not for everybody, but
people who like that high acid will like that, right?
Yeah.
Because the acid is not tough, right? It's just someone.
Yeah.
I'm susceptible
It's
to high
present.
acid. Yes,
Yeah.
that's just me. So.
And while I have a tough time with 2003 in general, I haven't liked a whole lot of older 2004s I've had either. So, cheers on that. Like I think that's drinking really well right now. It's, really solid wine. Yeah. And just a little plug here too. John's located right in Northwest Portland, kind of the industrial district here. So I'll have a link kind of in this video. You can see where he's at. Come visit him every weekend. You're open. Tasting rooms open.
yeah. We're open Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. Or take him an email if any of this catches your attention. It's all interesting stuff. So
Located right in downtown. Like we're
Yeah.
right on the edge. Like definitely worth your time checking out. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question of the day. It's time.
This is where the editing comes in, right?
it did last time, I think.
Yes. I didn't really think about that.
That's all right. We keep you busy talking.
Easy one would be like talk about your favorite. What's your favorite vintage in Oregon that you tasted?
Yeah, well,
We just tasted 04. Like, what's your? We can go there. We can go.
What's your favorite AVA in Oregon? I mean,
We can go.
there's.
What's
so
your
many
favorite
that-
AVA?
My favorite AVA? Well, don't like my children. No. I'm definitely partial to Eola-Amity Hills. It fits my style of wine, which is a little bit more acidic and tannin structure than some. So it plays to my strengths very well. I love Dundee for its prettiness. I like Eola-Amity too for it's kind of that balance of pretty and big and rich. I like all AVAs, but I think Eola-Amity's kind of where my heart is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming out again, and we'll be back to taste the 2010s.
Cool. Yeah, my pleasure.
See you guys next time.